Hey guys, coming to you with video instruction for lesson 3 here at Unit 3, Animations and Games. This is a lesson where you're going to start learning block coding, how to use blocks to create codes, which is going to allow you to draw shapes and other things here in this lesson. So if you see here when you get to lesson 3, step number 1 or activity 1, it tells you, gives you a little overview of what this lesson is going to cover. It's going to cover some of the basics of sequencing, so setting your blocks up in a sequence or layer to make sure that certain blocks are in front or behind of other blocks, as well as debugging. You can see the definition of those. Debugging is finding and fixing problems or bugs, as you can see here, within a program. Okay, and a program is an algorithm that's been coded into something that can be run by a machine. So as you add your blocks into the code, you're going to be creating an algorithm that tells the computer what it is that you want it to run. Okay, so just kind of a brief overview of that. You can see some new codes that you're going to learn. We saw some of this in the web design. Going to be very similar here with Unit 3 and coding games and animation. So a fill obviously is the color that you want a shape to be. So if you wanted a blue rectangle in the fill, you would let it know that you want it blue. An ellipse is a circle or an oval. You can see you can set the X and Y as well as the width and height of that shape. Same thing with a rectangle. Okay, so same thing, you set the X and Y where you want it on the Game Lab, and then if you want to adjust its width and height, you can do that as well. So you're going to go through this lesson just like you normally would. Again, up here at the top shows you all the different activities. Since we're not in class, make sure that you're watching the 2 videos here in this lesson. Okay, so continue. All right, so step number 2 is going to be the first opportunity for you to code using block. You can see here that this is a block for coding. So we can see we have a rectangle block which would code a rectangle shape. So right now it's set for the 100 X axis and 100Y. So if I click run, you can see that, and if I show the grid, you can see that that's at 100 and 100. Okay, and you can see it sets this rectangle. Now default width and height is always going to put it as a square, even though it says rectangle. But you can change that if you were to need to. Okay, so for this step it says click run to run the program and see what happens. We did that. Then it says to change the numbers inside the block and try running the program again. So here I'm going to do this one with you. It says try to place the rectangle near the bottom right of the screen. If you remember back to the last lesson with the shapes, it's always going to start at the top left corner. So I want to make sure if I put it down here at the bottom right that my X and Y is going to be on this top left corner. So we can see with the grid down here, which you can't see it unless your mouse is or your pointer's on the grid, but that would be at 350 and 350. Okay, so if I click back here, type in 350 for the X, 350 for the Y. I have to hit reset and then run again, and you can see that it places it down here in the bottom right corner. Okay, so as you go through this, you're just going to adjust the X and Y to in the further steps or activities to set your block where you want it. Alright, so once you change it, it should again look like this. Just hit finish and then move on to the next level. Alright, so here's the video. You watch that. When you finish that, just hit continue, and you'll just keep going down each one of these. Okay, again, make sure that you are doing every single step. Okay, don't just click on number 4 and hit continue. Okay, without doing what it says. Okay, and the other thing, as you go through most of these activities, on the right hand side over here will tell you what it wants your finished activity to look like. So for this one, when you hit run, it just places one square here, and it wants you to have obviously 2 squares in the corners. Okay, so you have to change the X and Y, and then again to add blocks, you just drag over. Okay, and then either put it above or underneath. Okay, now the last thing, when it comes to sequencing or layering, think about this kind of like a pizza. So whatever's at the very top, that's going to be your bottom layer, and then as you put more blocks underneath, so if I put 4 rectangles here, this last rectangle would be the very front layer. Okay, so everything underneath this, okay, could disappear, could be overlaid by this last one. Okay, so make sure that you keep that sequencing in mind as you go through this. If you don't want a block, just click on it, drag it back over here into the toolbox. This is your toolbox. This is your workspace. Okay, so I can add and take away as many blocks as I want. Alright, so again, if we reset and run it, we would see that we have 2 blocks. Now I would just want to change the X and Y to make them in the corner. Okay, so that would be activity number 4. Okay, so make sure you do that, hit finish, alright, and then keep going through. Okay, I will probably look at all of them just with these first few lessons, but I will be grading one particular step or activity here in lesson 3. So when I go into grade at the end of the week, then I'll click on one of them, and that'll be the activity for lesson 3 that I grade. Okay, so again, make sure, like, even if you add a rectangle, don't just hit finish. Okay, you want it to look like it does over here on the right hand side. Alright, so again, just go through each activity for lesson 3. There's nothing to turn in on Canvas. I will just go into code.org, click on your account, and I will grade it that way. Alright, if you guys have any questions, please let me know, and we'll talk to you soon.